lecture. Are there any questions, anything? Starting this week, we'll study a new subject, Microsoft Access database. Okay, Microsoft Access database, the version is 2019. You have two ways to access the software. One way, you go to the welcome page on the Blackboard, and then you use Windows Virtual Desktop by click this link. It is just like how did you do your Microsoft project. Okay, this is one way to do it. The other way, you can get a free copy of Microsoft Office, which include Microsoft Office Access 2019. Okay, how? You go to portal, http portal.office.com or login.microsoft.com. When you sign in, you need to use your student number at George Brown College. Your password is the same as your StillView password. Okay, after that, you downloaded access to your local computer. Okay, so two ways. One, go to the Windows Virtual Desktop. The other, download Microsoft Office 365. Okay, any questions on where and how do you access the software? Any questions? All right. Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do today, I will introduce the concept and the terminology involved in Microsoft Access, and then I will give you an example on how to create a Microsoft Access database. And for this week, hands-on, you need to submit a work that is here, review assignment toward the end of Access. This is on page 54. Okay, you need to complete this one. There are 20 steps. Okay, so that is the agenda for today. Any questions? All right, so I'm just going to adjust my computer so that I want to see both your questions and my lecture. Okay, here we go. I can see both, okay? So we are going to learn 4 modules. This is the first module on Microsoft Access 2019. And module 1 is about how to create a new blank database from scratch. By the end of module 1, you are going to describe the basic concepts and terms, and you are going to learn how to start and exit the database, identify access window and backstage view, create a new blank database, and then create a table in datasheet view, create a table in design view, and set up primary key in design view. Okay, so this is part 1 of module 1. Part 2 of module 1, you are going to learn how to open Access database, how to use table, open table using navigation pin, copy and paste records from another database to your database, navigate table, create a query, form, report, use help in Access software, and finally, how do you compact, backup, and restore a database? So those are the objectives for Module 1. So now I will introduce two concepts in this slide. One is a field. A field is just characteristics of a person, place, or object. For example, your first name is field, last name is field, address is field, phone number is field, etc. Okay. And what is a table? A table is a collection of fields that describes a person. So for example, if you have maybe patient ID, this Module 1 context is about a community health clinic. Okay. So if you have patient ID and you have patient first name, last name, address, etc., those are called field. So a table is just a collection of fields. For example, patient ID 00010, first name, for example, Pauline, last name, address, etc. And the next patient. So this whole thing is a table. As you can see, a table can have many fields. Okay, a table is a collection of fields. With each column we call fields. Each row we call record. So a table consists of a field and record. And this is the example I just introduced. So each row represents record. Each column represents fields. And the whole stuff here is a table. Any questions so far? Okay. And now, database and relational database. So what is a relational database? It is just a collection of related tables. This is just one example of a table, one table. If you have other tables, all table can form a database. So a database can have many tables. Okay. If you have many tables, are those tables connected? Usually, yes. And how do they connect? The different tables are connected through a common field. For example, if in this table you have patient ID, and in other tables you may also have patient ID. So patient ID is a common field. Okay. And the primary key, like patient ID, it is a unique field to to uniquely identify a record. Different patient will have a different ID. No two patients will have the same ID. It's just like your student number. No two students will have the same student number. All student numbers are different. So your student ID could serve as a primary key because that student ID uniquely identifies each student. So in textbook example, we have a patient ID. Patient ID is the primary key that uniquely identify each record. So this is another new concept, a database management system. It is just a program let you to create database and manipulate data. And a relational database is just a collection of tables. So database management system, what is the function of database management system? It can allow you to create database, okay, to add new records, to create a query. A query is an answer to a question. For example, how many students are international students? That is the query. If we have a student table, we can use query to answer that question. How many students are international students? Okay. And also database management have the report, built-in report. And the database can provide security, control, and recovery. It has those facilities. Okay. So we have just introduced some concept about database. Now, how do I start a database? Okay, so to start database, you have two ways to access database. Two ways. One is use Windows Virtual Desktop. Okay, and the other way is download. Download Microsoft Office 365. So there are two ways to use Start Access. The first way, Windows Virtual Desktop. It is just like how do you access the Microsoft project in the first 7 weeks. Okay, now I will demonstrate the second way. I already downloaded Microsoft Office 365. For those students who are late, I mentioned at the beginning, how do you use two ways? If you go to Blackboard, under the Welcome page, so one way is Windows Virtual Desktop. You can access Microsoft Access. The other way, you download from portal, portal.office.com or login.microsoftoffice.com. Okay, those are the two ways you can access the software. So this is for example, if I access this, I already have access. So I opened it. And you get this window. Okay, so you have options to create. Usually the first time you create a new blank database. So you click this button here. Okay, so this is this window presented here, a new blank database. Nowadays, some students use the tablet, the touch device. You can switch to touch mode in Access to make it easier for you to tap buttons on the ribbon and perform other touch actions. So how do you switch to the touch mode? On the Quick Access bar, you click Customize Quick Access Tool button, and then click Touch Mouse button. After that, quick touch. All right. So now, how do you create a table? So what is a relationship between a table and a database? So if a database is this is a database. Inside, you could have many tables. Okay, maybe 3 tables, maybe 2 reports. Sorry, maybe 4 queries. So those are one database can have many tables, many queries, many forms. Okay, maybe you have 5 forms. Those are all database. So as you can see, this table is just part of a database. Okay, and how do you create a table? It's set on the ribbon, click Create tab. Okay, I will do this when we go to here. Remember, you need to submit the review assignment on page 54. Okay, and all the hands-on, see, see, you need to submit hands-on Access Module 1. Okay, and where do you submit your file? You go to Assignments, Hands-on. Okay, we finished Microsoft project part. Now we are doing hands-on for Microsoft Module 1. So you are asked to do page 54 to 55 vendor database. And this is the textbook. You read instructions step by step. You complete 21 steps and you finish it. Okay. So this is how do you create a table? Okay, you go to the ribbon, then go to Create. And so after you create table, you save the table. I will go into detail for how do you create a table. Here, maybe I will. Okay, this is create table. In a table, you are asked to identify the type of the field. So what are the types of the field? You have a number type, short text, long text, date, time type, etc. Okay. So all this slide, I will do detailed demonstration. Don't worry about this, okay? Okay. So you can create table in datasheet view, or you can create table in design view. Also, I will do demonstration. Okay. So this one, I will go to detailed example. Okay, so I'm going to skip this for now. And then sometimes when you create your database, somebody else also create the same data structure. So you may just copy and paste a data from another database. Okay, so I will also do these demonstrations. Okay, any questions? So this is after you finish create a table, you can create a simple query. Okay, our query is just an answer to our question. Okay, and you follow this step-by-step on-screen instructions. Then you create a simple form, okay, and then create report. Okay. Lastly, you can view objects in navigation pane. At any time, if you have questions, you can use Access Help by just press F1 button if you are using Windows. Okay. So that is basically introduction of module 1. Okay. Introduce Microsoft Access database. Any questions? Any questions? I'm going to create a poll to see how many of you can access the software. The result is just yes, no. Remember how many ways you can access the software. There are 2 ways you can access software. 1, use Windows Virtual Desktop. 2, go to portal.office.com or login.microsoft.com. So I'm just going to show you. Do you access Microsoft? It is just yes, no button. Yes, no answer, okay? So it is yes, no. Do you know how to get access software? If you can spend just 1 second. Do you know how to get the software? That is the question. Either yes or no. I still have 4 students haven't responded. Okay, looks like most students can get access, but I still have 1 don't and 3 didn't answer. So I'm going to spend just a few moments to show you 2 methods. Okay, 5 no. Okay. So for 1 student you don't know, remember in the first 7 weeks, we used Windows Virtual Desktop to access Microsoft project. Okay, and you use the same method. So for example, if I click this link, I'm clicking this link now. Okay, so click this link. See, I already logged in, so I have this icon. The chances are you also have this icon. Okay, so you click allow and then submit. All right, so this is my Windows virtual desktop. So if you click Start, remember in the first 7 weeks we did project. Now we do Access. You see? Okay, now we do Access. So you double click to open it. Okay. It still asks you to sign in, so you go to sign in. So enter your email. Next. Password is the same as your StillView password. So accept license agreement. Okay. All right. So if you want to create a new blank database, you click here. So the database name, maybe my first database, okay, DB, my first database, which is in C drive users, my number, then documents. This is actually, it's in OneDrive. If you want to browse to see what happened. Okay, although it is said this PC, it is actually in OneDrive. This PC, let me see, C drive. So it is actually in the remote drive. Okay, so anyway, you can accept a default. Let me double check. Package. Okay, so you can see in this PC documents. This PC is on the remote side. It's not your local PC. Okay, so my database is my first DB. I create OK, and then click Create. Okay. And now this window looks overwhelming. Okay, if this is the first time you are starting Access, don't worry, go slow, go step by step, have lots of patience. Okay, this window overwhelming, I'm telling you. Okay, this part we call navigation pin. Right now you have table 1. Okay, so let's create a table. So let's create a student ID, first name, last name, address. That's it. Okay, go simple. So for this one, you double click ID. You want to change to student ID. Okay, and next you click and this click and enter. If you click this one, the type, data type are showed up. Most often we use short text. Okay, so for example, your first name, usually there is no space in the field name. So you see first name, no space. Then last name, it is a short text. Last name, okay, and then address. Okay, so for example, I just created 4 fields. 4 fields: student ID, first name, last name, address. And now I'm going to change the student ID to, by default, you see, it is auto number. If it is auto number, you must start with 1, but I don't want. In real life, your student ID is something like 100500705, something like that, okay? So I will change this to short text. Okay, so I will enter maybe 100200300. Just for example, this is your student ID. Okay, and pretend I'm a student. I will type in my name. Okay, and I'll type in my address. Just for example, King Street, etc. Okay, so I finished one student, one record. Now go to the next one, add another student. Okay, so another student, maybe 100, okay, 300, 500, just for example. Those are the student ID. Okay, can you give me some student name, or what would you like me to put on the student first name, last name? Anyone? Or can you make up, put your friend's name or put yourself's name, first name, last name? Okay, I will make up one, okay? Where is my database? So first name, for example, Lisa. Last name, for example, Wood. Address, 100 Queen. Just for example. Okay. So one more, I finish this table just to illustrate. Okay. Another student, a student number, okay. Peter. Okay. Wilson. Okay. So you keep on going. Okay. So this way you create a database. That database have one table. Okay. So you click this save button. Click save button. Give table name. The table is student table. Student table. Maybe just call it student. Okay. And click OK button. Okay, you create a student. And next, you are going to create another table. Remember, a database can have many tables. This is just one table. Okay. Let's create another table, maybe professor. So as professor, we have professor ID, first name, last name, address, etc. Just to illustrate, okay? So far, the table I created is use data sheet view. Next, I will use design view to create a table. So you go to here on the ribbon, click create. Okay. Table design. Okay. In table design, I will create professor ID. Professor ID is short text. I will create professor job title. It's professor or lecturer. Okay, etc. It is short text. And I will create use this bar. Maybe if you increase, make this bigger. So professor ID, job title, maybe telephone, or maybe date height. When this professor is hired, it is a date, time, type. Okay, my little dog is bugging me. Okay, what do you want? Sorry for the interruption. So this is a new table, another table. Okay, and I created this table in design view. So now I want to save this table. Click this save button here. And the table name is professor. Click OK button. Although primary key isn't required, do you want to create a primary key? Remember what is a primary key? It is a field that uniquely identifies each record. So in this case, professor ID is the primary key. Okay, so I'm going to create professor ID. So not ID, so I'm going to delete this one actually. Delete. I will specify professor ID is primary key, so I click professor ID. And then you see this primary key, click it. Now you have a key beside professor ID. Okay. So any questions so far? So I created a professor table, but nothing inside professor table. So if I go to data sheet view, a table can have two different views. One is design view, the other is data sheet view. So if I go to data sheet view, do you want to save? Yes. So this is the data sheet view. Okay. This is the data sheet view. Now I can enter professor ID. Okay. And the job title. Hide the date. Just for example, okay, this is one professor, another professor, job title, lecture, instructor, hide the date. Okay, you can keep on going to add other professors. Okay. All right, so far I have one database. The database name is here, see? My first DB. That is the database name. Okay, and in this database, I have two tables. One is a student table. If you click this one, this is student table I have created. Another is professor table. Okay, and suppose you finish to create this database. Okay, so you click File, Save. Okay, Save as. Do you want to close the object? Yes. Okay. So the database is my first database. Okay, my first database, the same name. And click Save button. Do you want to replace it? Okay. They are the same database. So enable content. Okay. And now you can close this database by click this button here, close it. Okay. And close everything. Okay. Maybe close the remote desktop. Okay, so that is how you create a database in Windows Virtual Desktop. Okay, suppose you take a break, you come back, and you want to continue work with your database you have just created. Okay, where do you go? You go to Windows Virtual Desktop on the blackboard. So you go to this Windows Virtual Desktop again, go click this link, and then connect. Okay, and now you want to open the database, not create, because you just created one. So you click open. Okay, you click open, the chances are the file is somewhere here. Okay, remember I created my first database. Okay, so you click here. And you can see the two tables here, professor table, student table. The data are there. All right, so what is this button here? This is upload new file. Okay, so that is how you use Windows Virtual Desktop. Okay, this is one way. And the other way is to use download from the other way is I already downloaded. Go to portal.office.com or login.microsoftoffice.com. Okay, so I will do demonstration on this one after we take a break, and I will go over this review assignment. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Okay, let's take a break. Come back at 1 o'clock for creating a database on page 54 in your textbook. You need to submit that file. Okay, you need to submit that file. I hope you will follow my steps. If not, the lecture is recorded. You need to submit the database on page 55 or 54, 55. Okay, okay, guys, take a break, come back at 1 o'clock. Okay, about 10 minutes break. I'm going to stop recording.